So you've been told that the great Australian dream is to buy your own home on a quarter-acre block in the suburbs. And you've been told to get good grades at school, get a well-paying job, save hard, and buy a home to raise the kids. And for some of us, this is the path we definitely want to take. What about you? Now, living in the suburbs was financially viable for your parents and even appealing to them when, let's face it, there was no traffic jams like today. But you, on the other hand, may have other plans, and that may mean being closer to work opportunities, entertainment and friends. Nevertheless, some of us have decided that the great Australian dream is underpinned by residential property. However, it means compromising on lifestyle or where you prefer to live. The problem is that you know exactly which suburb you want to live in, but you become disillusioned because it's more expensive than you can afford. Even the suburbs further out are more expensive than you can afford. Now, faced with this situation, what do you think most Australians end up doing? They bite the bullet and buy something anyway. Why? Because their well-meaning family and friends said, "Get in now before it's too late." Does that sound familiar to you? So they've spent too much money only to be in a suburb that is far from work opportunities, entertainment and friends. They then spend the next 30 years pedaling as hard as they can just to stay afloat. And the interesting thing to note is surveys show most Australians will then make employment decisions based on salary rather than job satisfaction just to stay on top of the mortgage. And the sad thing is they are paying to be in a suburb that they never really wanted to live in the first place. I don't know about you, but I think it's pretty crazy when you think about it. Let's look at Bob and Jane. They want to live in the inner city suburb of Paradise Vale. And in order to buy a property in that suburb, they need to pay at least $950,000. And they can't afford that. So they decide to move much further away into a less desirable suburb, Compromise Vale, and pay $700,000. They use their $120,000 saving and take out a 25-year principal and interest loan of $600,000, and it costs them $808 per week. But there is another way. Jane's sister Maria and her husband Jeremy decide to become rent investors. They decide to rent in Paradise Vale for $540 per week and research the suburb where a new hospital is currently under construction. They sit down with a finance professional and find that they can easily afford a $600,000 investment property. So to be conservative, they buy a $550,000 property next to the hospital, and it turns out the property costs them $50 per week to hold. That's right, only $50 per week. So with the help of their mortgage broker, they decide to buy 2 investment properties. They now have $1.1 million worth of investment property with strong growth fundamentals, costing them $100 per week. And they're happy to be renting in their preferred suburb for $540 per week. So their total cost is $640 per week. And to their delight, Maria and Jeremy are using their tax returns to go on holiday to Bali every year. Bob and Jane, on the other hand, are commuting long distances to live in a suburb that, in the first place, they never really appealed to them. They have a $700,000 home, and it's costing them $808 per week, which is $168 per week more than Maria and Jeremy. And this is not even taking into account the cost of the new car leases they need to get them to and from work. Now, when both sets of assets double in the coming years, Bob and Jane will have $1.4 million of assets, while Maria and Jeremy will have $2.2 million worth of assets. Maria and Jeremy continue to build their property portfolio and eventually buy a place in Paradise Vale for cash by selling down their property portfolio. Bob and Jane, conversely, still have a mortgage and are dealing with more and more traffic jams. Times have changed, and the great Australian dream has been reinvented. The world has moved on. The great Australian dream now is about lifestyle, and smarter decision making is more important than ever. Maria and Jeremy ended up getting the lifestyle they wanted and achieved a mortgage-free home in their preferred suburb far quicker. Isn't it time you found out what your numbers might look like? Contact us today. Your future might be brighter than you think.